What's up, dude?
Hey, man.
Hey, Google. May you please stop? Thank you.
What were you listening to?
Radiohead.
I've heard of that.
Have you listened to the album, like the one that came out, I guess, in 2016, the Moon-Shaped Pool?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd never really listened to it. At the time, I don't know, it just didn't, I was not like, it didn't jive with me at the time. But lately I've been listening to it, and it's like, especially because of Ozarks, because there was a few Radiohead songs from that album in Ozark.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like really cool.
I tried to start Ozarks the other night, but I got distracted a couple of times. So I watched the first scene 2 times, and that's as far as I've gotten. So,
is that a necklace you have?
Yeah.
Oh, cool! I couldn't tell it was like part of the shirt. That's awesome.
It's our solar system. Yeah, it's got the moon and all that stuff in there.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm liking the look, man. It's cool. How does it feel?
Feels very weird. I forget every couple hours, and then I see myself in the mirror, and then I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah, did that. But yeah, it was good. Liberating. My head is, now I know what shape my head is, which is weird.
Yeah.
I never knew what kind of shape it was, but
yeah, I realized when I did that, I have a funny shaped head.
I think everyone does.
Yeah, it's like it kind of like dips and goes out. Like I remember when I first shaved my head, it was really into the elongated skull people. So I'm like, it's evidence. I've got this. The skull is there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, it looks good, man. I like it.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm still feeling it out, but yeah, now it's just a perfect time to do it. So we'll see where it goes from here, but nice clean slate, at least.
Go there.
Good thought.
Hey, I'm gonna have a White Claw.
Sweet. I'm gonna grab a Miller Lite, a nice fine Pilsner.
Oh, that's so much better.
Isn't it?
I think it is. I got the one. I guess like all the White Claws are sold out, so I got the variety pack. That's just probably the worst flavors. So I had 1 or 2 the other day, and I was just like,
is it the volume 2 variety pack? What flavor you got right there?
This is tangerine.
Yeah, so you got the second installment.
Yeah, watermelon is probably like the weirdest one.
Yeah, I've only had 1 sip of the watermelon, or a couple sips of the watermelon. And I haven't tried tangerine, or was it lemon? What's the other one?
This isn't bad.
No, but they're not bad.
Yeah. Go for it. Get your fine Pilsner. The weather is very, very nice. It is over the last couple of weeks, it's been raining, not torrentially, but consistently. It's been cloudy and drizzly and rainy. So, as you know, that really clears up the air significantly with less pollution. So, and lately, this past week, it's been pretty warm. Beautiful day in the neighborhood.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I follow the Los Angeles community on Reddit, so I see people will be posting pictures all the time, and a lot of before and after, 3 months ago, this is my view of downtown, and it's all smoggy, and then yesterday, this is my view of downtown, and it looks like crystal clear, and a lot of those. And then I don't know if you saw, but somebody was like, "Oh, I can see the Hollywood sign from my apartment," or "I can see downtown from my apartment." And then somebody jokingly was like, "Oh my God, it's so clear out! I could see the Universal sign in the sky." And somebody photoshopped Universal, and I was like, really excited about the movie you put on.
Yeah, he's really excited. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
He's been getting extra cooped up lately, I think. He's just I'll sit in my chair and he'll just be like,
That calmed down.
I think the funniest meme I saw with regard to that, there was a picture of like a cityscape, and they're like, the pollution has gone away so much you can literally see the Matrix. It's just like the code of the Matrix floating, and it's like, wow.
Oh, I was gonna send you one the other day too. With some person, it was very well done. It was like from San Francisco, and it was like a regular video on someone's phone, and they're like, "Oh, it's so clear you could see the moon," and then they pan over to the moon, and then they zoom in, and it's the Death Star like kind of broken up. It is really well done.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, it looked awesome.
Wow, very spot on.
Yeah, and then people have done that with like spaceships. Oh my God, it's so clear how you can finally see the spaceships. You know, just it's like, how close are we to?
Yeah.
Our minds are mentally preparing ourselves for, oh, it's so clear. What else do we see in the sky? Oh, what else can we see?
Right, yeah, oh, wow. Yeah, there haven't really been any chemtrails, which that's nice. I mean, you could totally just like take David Wilcock's narrative and, you know, just see it as all confirmation that everything is happening exactly as it's supposed to. I'm not sure that it is, but it certainly is getting people to be like, you know, now is the time, now is the time, now is the time.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying that at the same time is pretty powerful in itself, I think.
I agree. Yeah, even just having that perspective for a day, or, you know, yeah, it seems to be that is when else has there been a time like this where now would be the time? There's no more excuses. So yeah, that is it's a really interesting thing for the whole you know, the whole Matrix to be thinking something like that at the same time, because then that kind of, even if we don't know what we are getting, it's like, all right, well, they're ready for it. Whatever, they don't know what they're getting, but they're ready for it. That's what everyone's saying. It's like, now's the time for what? I don't know, but we're ready.
We're ready for something. Something's gonna happen. How's the weather out there?
It's kind of in the 40s and hasn't been great, like kind of typical. It's a little bit colder than it normally would be right now, I'd say, for middle of April. Yeah, exactly, middle of April right now. I don't know, it's Wisconsin. It could be, there's probably some years where it's been 70 today on this date, and then there are some years where it's been like it is today, it's in the 40s, but it's still really sunny and it was nice out. We've had rain and dreary. Like, you can't really attribute any weather in Wisconsin to anything ever, because it could be, you know, any season, any day, and that could be global warming. It could not be. Like, it could have been this way 40 years ago, 100 years ago. You don't really know. So it doesn't really say anything because the weather is one way today. So yeah, it's fine. It's not horrible. The dogs get to hang out outside, and that's all that really matters.
And how are Mac and Abigail doing?
Good. I've got to get, the time is coming for Abigail to get spayed. So that's coming up soon with Machiavelli. Yeah, he loves it here. So he's outside most of the time. He's been a little annoyed now. Cold. It's not as warm as he wants it to be. I could tell, because he'll sit outside for 14 hours a day. So if he actually wants to come in, there's this look in his eye like, God damn it! Like, why? It's supposed to be 70 out right now. I'm supposed to be frying. I want to be frying on the blacktop right now. But what is this bullshit? So yeah. Besides him, being Machiavellian. Yeah, he's good. And then the other pup, Coco, my parents' pup Coco and Abigail are getting along really, really well. They're always like play fighting, so good. They're wearing each other out. Yeah, your pups are good. They look all right.
Yeah, they're doing good. They're doing good. Like I said, Thor's been acting like it might also just be the chair that I'm sitting in. I don't know. Like all it takes is literally for me to go on the bed and just lay there with him for a second, and then he'll be like, all right, and then he just gets into the blanket. But if I'm sitting on the chair, he's looking at me like, dude, what are you doing all the way over there? Like, come over here, man. I'm just like, Thor. So, but yeah, and Isabel's doing good.
Do you think Thor's getting a little more anxious or something as he grows older? I think
so. Or? I think maybe just from, not much has really changed. We still go on walks and everything. I really do think it has to do with the chair, though.
Okay.
Because it's like literally, like I just sit there and he looks at me like, dude, why are you sitting there? Why aren't you sitting next to me? Yeah. So, but yeah, they're doing good. They're doing good.
Is that a new addition?
What's that?
Is the chair a new addition to the apartment?
Yeah. So my dad brought this up like a couple of weeks ago. It's like
okay, so that's maybe what. So Thor's like, you're either working on your computer or you're chilling with me, and he doesn't like the in between of like,
right,
you're not working, you're not chilling with me.
Yeah, I don't want to lay in bed right now.
Yeah.
On a lounge. Gotta get used to this new rocker. He's also like, I don't like this rocking chair. The other rocking chair was better.
That like red one? Wasn't that the one that you always like, red or maroon or something like that?
Yeah, it was that. Yeah, it was my great grandfather's rocking chair.
Yeah.
Decade, like over a decade. And then moved back from Crestone, and we didn't have a place for it at my parents' house, so we just like left it outside, and it was fine for a while. But then the dogs would pee on it. There were spiders inside of it. Like it broke. My dad had to like Frankenstein it back together a few times, and then I just after a while I didn't want to sit in it because I knew there were like spiders in it. And I'm like,
yeah, fair enough.
Trying to that doesn't make me very comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else new? Everything with Uncle Bruce is going okay. I watched part of his Facebook stream, and it was very reassuring, I guess, and just kind of giving perspective on stuff.
He's getting a lot of views. That was a really cool one. That was done through the organization London Real, or London Real, however you want to pronounce it. They had somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,800 people at most, I think, watching that live, which is great. And the video that we uploaded of our webinar from last month, that has, I think, almost 300,000 views on it right now. That's like insanely good compared to the other one. So obviously it's a relevant subject. People want to hear what he's got to say. It's being received really well within that community. The likes and dislikes ratio, which you got to pay attention to, is definitely in a good place. And then doing regular meetings with the Mountain of Love team, social media, web developers, because we're in the process of developing this new website. And it's going to be really cool. It's going to be much more in tune with, like, I don't know, just a lot more thought is going into the design of the site, and then the community aspect of it, where it'll have like a built-in social media component. So it's going along well. And my whole thing with that I'm trying to express is how we need to start thinking about doing more live events online, because for the foreseeable future, I imagine a lot of these live in-person events he does are going to either get canceled or switched over into web, streaming, which a lot of these places he goes, they do all of that themselves. So they, like, in a most common scenario, they will have the whole thing set up that we just have to, we don't have to actually do anything. So like the event will still happen, and they'll figure out all the web online streaming stuff. But I've been trying to encourage us to start thinking about doing that ourselves, using Zoom, so people can go and watch Uncle Bruce do a talk from anywhere, bring the price point down from what it would be if you were going to go see him live, but also make it a, more than $7, Yeah. So it's been a little challenging going through that process, but it's definitely moving in a good direction. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. Yeah. It's good to be able to adjust, obviously. Like all types of businesses are struggling with that right now. So if you guys are keeping momentum and staying positive about it, and it seem like you can do it in a timely fashion, that's kind of, obviously Uncle Bruce will be fine, but that's going to make or break a lot of businesses at this point, is how quickly they can adapt to the situation, and if they can make it worthwhile as well. It's really,
we've been moving in that direction for over a year now.
Right, you've been saying that.
And ideologically as well, having, like, ever since I even signed on to work with them, it's always been about, like, in the future, we're going to migrate to online stuff more so that he doesn't have to go out and lecture. So it's been in the process. And, like, the thing that I've been pushing back on a little bit is when I talk about live events, they're sort of thinking like, okay, well, when they come back, I go up to their house in the studio and we film like a course. And I like that idea. We've been doing that, and we will continue to do that, but that's not the same as doing a live event, even online. Just a completely different energy when it's just me and Thor in the green room with Uncle Bruce as attendant and talking to a camera. There's more of a tendency to, like, you say something and you fuck up the words and you're like, okay, let me go back, let me start over. So there's editing involved, and it's just a different vibe when he's talking, like you saw a little bit on that webinar thing. You know, he's that's where Uncle Bruce's real charisma and energy, communication abilities come through. So it's like, yeah, we'll continue to do filmed courses that we can offer as streaming products, like on the store. But I'm trying to say like a whole new thing where we just have like, you know, online events.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be better that.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, he agreed. It's a better suiting thing for Uncle Bruce, and just he's like an interactive guy, and I feel like, you know, it really helps to have, even if they're not physically there, to have the people that are tuning in live, you know, in that moment. Because yeah, you just see his energy. Same with you, like your energy kind of plays and feeds off of that, and you're more natural, and it provides a more unique experience than, yes, just sitting in front of your camera by yourself or with one other person, and then it's more, yeah, robotic and, okay, redo that take. I didn't say this the right way, you know. But like live, you know, fuck ups are part of like the thing. Even if you misspoke or, you know, like, oh, sorry, I said that or whatever, you know, that makes it more realistic. Sure. You know, and we're all human, so it's kind of nice to see people that you respect like be human as well, instead of, you know, always being impeccable. Are you thinking of then having like I don't really know if Uncle Bruce had a like Q&As when he would lecture a lot, but are you thinking of having stuff like that where people can kind of have or at least submit questions or have people chime in? I don't know if you follow Lupe Fiasco on Instagram.
No, but that's actually thank you for suggesting that.
He's been doing a lot of live video where he's just like lets people pop in and he talks to them and gives them a couple questions, and they just like literally anybody like around the world just.
That's
and
awesome.
Then he'll be streaming it and just have a conversation with you, and that just, I don't know, adds to it. I feel like Uncle Bruce, even if you like had somebody on like, hey, this is Bill from Tallahassee, like I got one question.
Yeah.
You know, similar to a radio show, but you know, having somebody be able to talk to him face to face.
And that's cool. That's what we do once a month.
Okay.
And like these online webinars, before we started using Zoom, we used this service called instantteleSeminar.com, which was just exclusively a call-in program where I would go on a website and I could see all the people that are on the call and mute them and all that, but it would just be audio. And when we first started doing that, since there was really no means of like seeing, I don't know, just people seemed less inclined to ask questions off the bat. So like for the first couple of years that we were doing these, it was like always a big thing. We need to figure out what we're talking about this time. So Uncle Bruce would get a little worried about, because he's got so much stuff he's trying to figure out. Now it's like, oh, I got to figure out what am I talking about today? So you would have to plan out, and it would try to make it go on for, you know, half hour at least. Because originally we wanted to do these for about an hour, and then we would bring people on to ask questions. Now with the video format, there are so many ways people can ask questions and come on as a video guest panelist. I could see a little digital hand get raised, so I know I can pick people. There's awesome. A Q&A section that I can relay questions. So now it's not, we really don't have to worry about what subject it is that, like, what's Uncle Bruce going to give a lecture on. It is turned more into strictly a Q&A, hour to 2 hour long Q&A. Cool. So we do that once a month. And I think for these online courses, once we start having these, like, let's say this weekend, Uncle Bruce will be doing a 4 hour online course spread out over Saturday and Sunday, 2 hours each day, talking about spontaneous evolution with his PowerPoints. You know, he has that. So it would just be his PowerPoint. And what I was thinking we would do is we would just basically, for the first, 2 hours, it could, the time is not sure exactly the time, just putting a number out there, but let's just say for the first chunk of time on both days, he gives his lecture. And then at the end, we open up the lines for people that have questions specifically on that. Or if we just do like a 3-day event, the first 2 days are the actual lecture. And then the third day is the Q&A based on the event. Mm-hmm. And they would be able to watch it live. If you're not a member on the site, you would have to pay a certain price for that. But if you already are paying the $7 a month, then you get a discount on that particular thing. So it's sort of like a next level above the membership, because you get all the videos and the once a month Q&A, but then if you don't even want to do that and you just want to watch one lecture of his, you can watch it live and then it will get uploaded to the membership site. So let's say you missed it and you didn't get to pay for it, you can then go like onto the membership site, become a member and watch it there. Mm-hmm. So cool. Yeah, having the Q&A is definitely something we're thinking about doing.
Yeah, because at this point, I think that's I don't know. To me, that'd be the bigger value, like being able to talk.
Yeah.
Talk to Uncle Bruce or talk to anybody because everyone's, it's always great getting the information, but you always have the personal things, like even just the ability or the idea of maybe getting a chance to ask them a question is like just really nice by itself, let alone actually doing it. I don't know. I feel like this is a great time for people kind of, re-leveling, getting all on the same level. Like everyone you have access to everybody. Like it wouldn't surprise me if, I don't know, if like Barack was still president right now or somebody like him, it wouldn't surprise me if he did something, like that. Like talk to the president. Like how often do you get to talk to the president?
Yeah.
Or just like Lupe's doing, or just people that are like, seem like so untouchable. Now it's like, why not? Let's talk. Random person, let's just pick a number out of a hat or whatever, or you raise your hand in the chat and all of a sudden you're talking with your favorite artist, your favorite musician, your favorite politician. Like it wouldn't surprise me if some of the younger politicians were just like, hey, let's talk, get everyone on the same level now. And now we're, back to our community thing. It's like if you have access to everybody, that really kind of changes things instead of having this hierarchy of untouchable people that are like, well, they're doing work on my behalf, even though I have no real contact with them unless I, send a letter to Congress or, call into Congress and make a complaint. But now maybe you'll actually be able to talk to the congressman.
Yeah.
I don't know, like that idea is really, really cool. So this time is like perfect for that,
Totally.
Obviously you're spoiled because Uncle Bruce is Uncle Bruce to you, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that'd be like, man, I just wish I could ask him, 2 or 3 questions just to get his perspective on it. That'd be so cool and kind of reassuring to people like, oh yeah, I didn't really think about it that way. Thank you. Just to have that access to it is just a really cool idea, cool tool.
Mm-hmm. And it's over the course of every month, we're getting to the point where there are more people asking questions than we can get to. Usually when we first started doing this, it was like, oh, it's like Ghostbusters. They did in the beginning of Ghostbusters when they bought that building and they didn't get any calls in and they were eating food and they're like, well, this is the last of the money. And then like the one call, they're like, we got one. And they got so excited. So then they just started taking as many as they could. That's kind of like how we felt when we first started doing this, because we all of a sudden had tons of people coming on, and 1 hour webinar turned into 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And it'd be funny because it's my job to sort of moderate it, make sure that we stay in time. And there were a few times where it was like, he told me make sure we have to leave by a certain time. So it'd get to like an hour and 15. And I'm like, all right, well, I think we're getting close to the end of our time. And then Uncle Bruce would be like, Alex, come on. We got so many people. Don't end this. It was like my fault that we're I'm like, all right, Uncle Bruce, of course, you're the boss. We're going to bring more people on. He did that intentionally to make fun of me, but
of course,
all in good fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's
so yeah, we're lots of people asking questions, and even just having that opportunity, just even if you don't have a question, just like sign in and be like, wow, it's so cool to see you. I just wanted to say thank you. And you've changed my life and blah, blah, blah. It's like sometimes those little things too, just to know that you have that connection and you're being heard and that you're being seen. And it's a genuine experience. So it's good.
Yeah. That's awesome. Good stuff. I'm sure it really helps him to have, somebody that's a different generation, giving him the perspective of what 30-year-olds think right now, and not just what 50, 60, 70-year-olds think. And yeah, I don't know, because I have no idea what fucking 20-year-olds are thinking right now, to be honest.
Yeah, that was a big part of his when we had a meeting last week. Uncle Bruce was just going on about this new sort of concept that he's adopting, which is that basically, you always talk about the millennials, and the millennials are the ones that are, the go out there. He always kind of like prototypically refers to voting as like the end all like option of our sovereignty as human beings. Like, well, if the young people just went out and voted, if the millennials voted, like change the world. And it's like, you put a lot of confidence and stock into the millennials as a game-changing generation, but now he's like talking about Gen Z, which is like the 20-year-olds, the people that were born past 2001, and how those are actually the ones that are going to be doing a lot of the changing. And it's like, part of me as a millennial, I'm like a little like, hey, like, what, you're just giving up on us just because you know, like, but like, I get where he's coming from, but because he's right to a certain extent, like with the millennials, our generation in our coming of age, it was coming in an age of a world that was falling apart, and we're seeing all the unsustainable things. And it's like, I don't want to participate in this bullshit system.
Yeah.
A lot of that going on. Whereas the Gen Z, like the younger kids, think of the Parkland shooting and the organization that all of these kids did to mass stage a like worldwide walkout of school.
Mm-hmm.
Just these kids organizing. We're seeing a lot more of the kids doing these things, not the older generations. So like, he's like, yeah, but it's like the millennials, the Gen Z, however, they got, I'm like, yeah, Uncle Bruce, like, that's great, but it's like, it's not just that. See, that's the same attitude that a lot of people have about your generation.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't need you. You know, you're the ones that screwed this up. And I'm like, that is just not really a very approachable way to deal with this. We should all be looking ourselves as one. We all, at the different levels, have different strengths and certain weaknesses that if we work together and stop pointing our fingers and saying, well, this is the generation or that's not the generation. It's like, no, we are all part of this generation. We are all, whoever's alive right now has basically got a hand in this somehow.
Right, right.
So it's like, but he's right though. It's like the younger generation is organizing and doing things in a proactive way that I don't know, like when the last time that really happened, minus maybe the 60s. But they weren't as young as these kids are now.
No. And who knows how organized they actually were back in the, I don't know, who knows. Who knows the level of communication and actual, intention. Obviously they got a lot done with the Civil Rights Act and stuff like that, but it's tough for us because the millennials have gotten such a bad rap the whole time. But you're right, we're kind of like the in between. We got shoved in. People 10 years older than us, 15 years older than us, still kind of got the benefits of what the boomers had, almost like the tail end of it, like being able to go to school, not be in $1 million in debt, get a house, and kind of make a career for themselves, not too difficultly, And then we kind of came along when things started crumbling and changing, and 9/11, and things were way more like, we graduated in 2009, which was like the low, economic collapse essentially was happening when we graduated, and it was just like we were kind of set up to fail. So it's really easy to blame us also because we had like an identity crisis, I think, too. Like we didn't really know what the cause was. It was like George Bush and then John Kerry and like all these really just like, what the I don't, there's no clear direction. Like we're scared now. Like all we have to do is be scared. Like they're going to come get us. Like all the enemies are around us. Like that was what we grew up in. That was what we like became adults in. So there's no like, what are we actually going to do? How are we going to, we're going to change the world through the economy or through politics while we're going to war with Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan. And it's like, we were just kind of thrown into a tornado, and we've been kind of figuring it out. So I understand why we were being the scapegoat, and then kind of reactively we've been like, all right, we're looking at the boomers now. Now it's like, us versus the boomers, which is what it's been the last couple of years, and everyone just kind of playing the blame game. And so I understand Uncle Bruce being like, well, no, not the millennials now the younger ones, because they can be more organized, and because we just don't know how they're going to be yet. Like they're still kind of fresh out into the world, so like they don't really have, except for the like, I think they're a lot of the ones that have been breaking quarantine and went down for spring break and shit like that. Like,
yeah.
So we still don't really know what they're going to do. Obviously the organized school walkout was a cool thing for a lot of young kids to organize, and there's a lot of good signs, but there's just, yeah, I like what you said about we're all the generation. It always comes down to that they want people to be infighting, and they want you to be pointing at your classmate or your uncle or your dad or your neighbor and being like, you're the problem, or the younger kids or the older guys. It's the same old story, like every generation's another generation, and that's how things don't get accomplished. It's like, all right, so maybe that will be what the millennials are good at, is when we get older to be able to side with the younger ones instead of see them as the enemy, you know, like kind of bridge the gap of the generations. Because, you know, it's really easy to get old and cynical. I can already feel it as a 35, almost 35-year-old, just becoming so cynical. It's just really, really, really easy to do, especially these days where things are so polarizing. Be like, oh, goddamn kids. I could see myself, you know, as a 50-year-old, just be like, these fucking kids, like, just doing things to spite them. You know, just like they don't know how it is. They don't know how it was growing up in 9/11. They don't even remember 9/11, blah, blah, blah. Or we could be the ones that are like, you know what, I don't really understand exactly what you're doing, you know, people that are 25, 30 years younger than us, but let's see if we can figure something out, because we're going to have maybe a different, fresher, or a more open perspective. Like, okay, we don't understand what life is going to be like in 2030 when we're in our 40s, but let's give the people that are kind of on the front lines a chance to do something, because they're there in the field and the shit, and they have a valuable perspective. So let's work together, our wisdom and experience with their perspective and their energy, and then let's bridge the gap and do things together, instead of saying, oh, these old fuckers, we got to get them out. You know, let's give the elders quality again, you know, the respect. Let's bring back the respect for the elders, because that has really gone by the wayside in the last couple of generations. I feel like, you know, the World War II generation, our grandparents' generation, was still pretty well respected.
The greatest generation.
Yes, right. And then World War I, like all those people, those generations were just like, you can, you know, bow your head and say thank you. That's all you can do to them. And they were just a different breed, but it's kind of lost that a lot. And a lot of the kids have lost a lot of the respect and don't treat the elders with respect. So maybe we can bring, as we get older and we become the elders, maybe we can have that wisdom to not be so judgy and angry and cynical about stuff, and then bring back the respect for the elders, and then while also respecting the youth as well.
Yeah.
And then kind of, you know, fucking working it out together and killing it, and let them do all the energetic shit and us do the thinking, you know. And
right.
then
Everyone can have a different role in that.
Yeah, and not be mad at each other, and then be like, oh, let's go hang out with the old dude on the porch because they're kind of funny. And I don't hate them, you know, and then I won't be like, hey, you damn kids, get off my lawn. I can't believe you're over here. It's like, oh, that's funny, but let's get over it. Let's get over that shit and work together. Like, you know, I mean, you know, if we're still alive in 30 years, there's going to be people that aren't even born yet that are molding our world that we're living in. So we have to have that perspective. You can't just be mad because they're so different and they're weird. Like how weird is a kid going to be that's born today in 30 years? They're going to be fucking weird. We're not even going to get it, but
kids.
But, you know, let's be open about it. Like, oh wow, like they could be our entertainment, like seeing how the youth is changing. Like, wow, that is some weird shit, but that's cool. All right, let's go with it. Let's roll with it. I don't know what you're wearing or what you're riding or what you're driving or what you're eating, but that looks, I don't know. Let's teach me about it. Let's do it together. I'll try some weird space shit. Who knows?
Yeah. It makes the whole thing kind of reminds me of the Greek story, the mythology of Zeus and the Titans, where you have that exact thing play out with the gods. You had the Titans, who were like the upper gods, and then they had a next generation of kids. You had Zeus and Poseidon and Hades. Those are like the three main ones. But the whole story is that the Titans, the lead father of the Titans, every time they had children, he would eat the children.
Right.
Because he didn't want, you know, the kids to take over, basically. So Zeus, I think with the help of his mother, tricked his father into eating a bunch of rocks or something instead. Like, my kids, and ate a bunch of rocks, and the kids grew up and then came back and fought the Titans and took over Mount Olympus and became the new gods. Right. So there's that whole revolution story. And not to put it down, like not to say that like they weren't respecting their elders, because the Titans were committing all sorts of awful things, like, you know, murder, genocide, and arguably evil stuff. But I don't think that's what we need right now. I think like we're talking about more of akin to an evolution and not a revolution. Speaking of that, I watched Lost Alamos the other night, like for the first time in years, and it was like hilarious, just a hilarious experience watching that. We'll have to repost that on the social media. What a time capsule that is of just that time.
The whole thing, man. The behind the scenes, the party movie, the movie that was made while having a party the whole time.
Yeah.
Somehow all got made together.
Yeah.
That was remarkable. Yeah.
So,
How you felt good about it? Like it made you.
Yeah, I mean, I felt good about it in the sense that it was like watching a time capsule, or it took me right back to that time, made me laugh. Um, of course, like the critical professional part of me is thinking like, okay, there's a lot of things that could have been done to make that better, but that's not what that is about. And really pretty much every time I made a movie in college, that was never my go-to attitude. Like even making Hidden, I was not concerned about making it something for the film festivals as much as I wanted to make a movie that our class could enjoy, that we could enjoy, have fun doing, and all that. I think that's a big part of my style when it comes to making stuff. So with that in mind, yeah, it was great. It was hilarious, goofy. Even some of the things that I felt like I was worried about at the time, that, like, for example, there was that part when Corey and I are walking out of the hallway in the East Wing, and it was supposed to be like a raging party in the living room. And it's just like a few people just standing there staring at the camera. And I was like, I come out of there and he's like, wow, the party's raging. I'm like, yeah, it's crazy out here, man. It's just like that guy Armand just like standing there like this, looking in the camera. It's like, I remember being kind of worried about that or concerned about that at the time, which now I didn't even notice. It was just like watching like the coolest home movie of that time.
Right. That's exactly what it is. I mean, yeah, the value, I think, for us only increases constantly. And those kind of little things are perfect for us. Like anytime I look back, obviously we're super biased about this, but everything that we did, it is perfect. It's literally perfect. So like all those shots, like, and the behind the scenes shots and the little things, like everything is perfect and just encapsulates how that time was. And it was such a wonderful thing that you were able to make a movie with everybody, all the characters, every character that we knew was in the movie, all of our friends, everybody that you remember, like everybody was there. And no, the movie wasn't like you're not going to send it in a film festival.
No.
Never the plan, but for what it was, like anybody who knew us during that time would have a great time watching that. And I think that's the big thing. And then as we get older, it only gets like, wow, that really every moment kind of sums up every part of that experience. Like walking into the living room when it's not really a rage. We never really had a rager there. Like everyone was kind of tame, but we still had a really good time. And there were a lot of people, 30, 40, 50 people there sometimes, but it was never like, a crazy rage.
Yeah, it wasn't like that movie Project X.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It was never like that, but it's because it was a bunch of nerdy film kids and just having good conversations, still getting fucked up. But it's funny that, we look back on it and be like, oh yeah, that was a crazy party. And then we watch that. It's like, everyone's just kind of like, oh, hey man. Cool.
Oh yeah. One of the funniest moments I'll always remember so vividly from production that comes back immediately while watching this movie is the part where La Scala, that girl Danielle, and and Blair on the couch. And it was just like all of us standing there like, all right, quiet on the set. All right, action. And like Mike's like smoking a joint. We're all being very quiet. What time is it? It's 20 to 12. All right, cut. All right, we're going to do that again. We're going to do take two. I remember everyone just started laughing because we're just literally all just standing there for a school project watching this dude smoke a joint on the couch. All right, let's do another take.
And obviously it was a real joint. So they were just sitting there getting baked.
Yeah.
And everyone had been drinking and smoking before that too. Like the whole production was everyone smoking weed and not getting crazy drunk, but people were having beers. So it was like just watching. Yeah, those three were already baked, but they looked so baked. And then they were need to do that a couple of times, I think, because Blair fucked it up, I think, once or twice, or like something goofy. But yeah, I remember everyone. There was just 15 people standing just watching these people sit on a couch,
and the roar of laughter from like going, all right, let's do another take. We'll do that again. It's like. Yes. Yeah. So funny. I forgot why I brought that up in the first place, but just I think going forward, just what's interesting is how long ago that was. At this point, 2009, it was over 10 years ago. And it's amazing how much things have changed. And how grateful I know we both are for that time.
Absolutely. And to have those things. Imagine if all we had were our memories of that place. We
Imagine.
didn't have any. Yeah. And we didn't, maybe we had, like most people, I think we've talked about this, like, most people's college careers when we went to college or a little bit before that, it was just a lot of, pictures on your phone. And you have to kind of fill in the blanks. And then there's a lot of nights that you go out and no one documents anything about it. Just come back and it's like, oh yeah, that night, and then so much gets forgotten and left behind. But we documented so much of that, and it's just amazing to be able to have that, and hopefully keep for forever, and then keep finding more and more. Like I still have all the, like I gave you those mini DVs, and I still have one or two here as well, and I don't even know what footage is on there from my old camera that I had.
And that's the thing is we can watch those. We can watch those now, but it's just a matter of like transcoding them into digital.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's like it was such a weird in between format. So I know like even the high 8 or whatever is still like it's not like you could just go, every computer has a way of downloading that or something like that. But the fact that we still have those is and then even all the little audio files that we have from my little dictaphone back in the day, like those little things we're very blessed to have a lot of these documentations of this time, this wild 2 years, and essentially only 2 years of our lives.
Yeah.
Magical shit.
Yeah. Hold on one second. I'm going to pause this. Did you see my beads?
Oh, those are beads.
Yeah.
I was very confused at how they were behaving back there. To be honest, I couldn't really tell if that was like a green screen or something. They're beads. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I always wanted those ever since being a little kid. Just like makes me feel I don't know. It's a fun experience. I kind of giggle every time I walk through there.
Nice. Going through a portal.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mandala, Lilith, all sorts of stuff I'm sure we need to discuss here.
So yeah, I've been going over a lot of hero's journey stuff again, I guess, and then different breakdowns and just seeing how, people simplify it and the staples that you need for characters, and thinking about the notes that we got from the screenplay contest that we sent in. And it seems like one of the notes was they didn't really know what does Lilith want, and we know, like, on a grand level, she wants to be free, or she wants to be dead, or she wants to be whatever the fuck, but it's very ambient, it's very ethereal. It's not very like human,
grounded.
Yeah. Not yet. I'm talking to Alex Lipton right now. Okay. All right. She said, hey, Alex.
Hey, Mom.
So I really want to just ask you, I'm going to pull up a picture of what it's like, the classic, like the want, the need, the wound. And then there's one more of like what you really need to figure out character wise. I had it written down. The lie, the wound, the want, and the need.
Wait, hold on.
So like the lie and
what was the list of all these things again?
The lie, the wound, the want, and the need. So like the examples were from, they gave like Frodo's want. So the want is external, the need is internal. Frodo wants to destroy the ring, but he realizes that he needs Sam to do that. But he has to like learn that, Yeah. And then Neo wants to save humanity from the overlords, but he realizes he needs to believe in himself.
Yeah.
Woody wants to be Andy's favorite toy again, but what they said that his need is to realize the importance of sharing and working with other people as well. So then there are obstacles and blah 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 blah. So like, you know, the lie is the thing in them that they're telling themselves that they believe, and they're like Luke's lie is that he'll only be like a farm boy. You know, he'll never be a great Jedi like his dad, because he doesn't know what happened. You know, he doesn't know the truth about his lie. He thinks his parents are dead. So his lie is that, oh, he'll always be average, and you know, maybe if he tries hard enough he can make it into the academy or whatever thing is his and then obviously his wound is that both of his parents are dead, you know, so that's something in his past that's affecting how he behaves. His want is eventually his want is to be a Jedi like his dad, and then his need is to like save, you know, balance out the Force by either like bringing his dad on to their side or you know, killing the Emperor. So these are things that kind of evolve throughout the story, obviously. But these are like, if you don't know what the main things are for your character, then how can you possibly write, you know, what they would, if you know all of these things, you know what they would do in every situation.
Right.
And then obviously halfway through is typically when, you know, the character changes and starts going from reactive to proactive. Like they say, that's Luke is just kind of like, the droids come and then this happens, and then he meets Obi-Wan, and then his parents get killed, or his uncle and aunt get killed, and he's just reacting to everything. And then but then finally when they're on, he makes the decision that they need to be proactive and save Leia. That was like they said it's almost the exact point, the middle point in the movie, where that's the first time he's like, no, we're going to stay, we need to save Princess Leia. And then after that, he starts being proactive. They're getting, the room's getting closed in, you know, he's trying to save them from that. And he starts making decisions on his own. So with Lilith, like, I feel like we know a lot of generic stuff about her, but we don't know specific stuff. Like when it comes down to like, what would her lie, what would her, like, I don't even know where to start with her lie, wound, want, or need. Do you feel like you know any of those for her, like off the top of your head that you could?
Well, yeah, this will definitely be a good conversation, because I agree with you. Like, we have a lot of these things floating around in an orb, and they're not really consolidated specifically, I think, because a lot of them seem to tie in. You know, it's almost like the concept of even being free can fit to all of these.
Right.
So like, if we were to focus, let's say, on the lie, the first thing that comes to mind is thinking, you know, Lilith wants, or not Lilith wants, that's separate. The lie, I think, is Lilith thinks that her career, that she is her career in a way. I think like part of it is that, you know,
her value.
Just the fact that her identity is her career. You know, like part of the motivation for her wanting to leave the fabric, obviously, because she had a lot of shit that happened to her, and that definitely ties in with her wound. But yes. I think part of it, it's like she wants to, because again, she's still an artist. Think hypothetically, if Vincelli never showed up and she took a break. She never said she was quitting music. Right. She's like, I'm taking a break. Let's say hypothetically Vincelli never showed up and she takes like a good long hiatus. She's got enough money, she can do that. And then eventually she could probably make a comeback and start being creative again. Because that's one of the things that she's a creative artist, like philosopher, you know, very smart person. and she really made a life of her for herself being that person. But then everything kind of came to a point where she had to stop. So I feel like that also influences why she on some level decides to go with Vincelli, because Vincelli kind of paints this picture for her like, you're not going to be alone. I totally feel you. I understand your wound, but I also understand that you love your career and you want it. You want it. Like, she wouldn't do it if she didn't, if her career wasn't a big part of her life, that she wanted to have that potential. If she was just like a full on, like, you know, out of the matrix artist person, she'd be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I need to heal. But it was like Vincelli was like, no, remember your career. And she's like, oh yeah, okay. So it's like, I'll do this. I got my back. It's like, it's for her career. It's for her art. It's for her product. It's for her brand. It's for that whole thing. And that's a lie.
Yeah.
That's like, ultimately by the end, it's like, that had nothing to do with what her purpose really has been or would be, even in that final moment of her life. What do you think about
that? Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that she so I essentially gives herself the lie is that she's only worth what her persona is worth, like what Lilith is worth, not like what she is to other people. Like, so you're saying that if she would have, so maybe she was on the right path of like where she was going to start being proactive and like, I need to take care of myself, but then was still at a point where Vincelli paints this picture that gives her more worth. Like, it's like the false sense of worth. Like, oh yes, but you are this performer. You're destined for this kind of stuff. And if she's believing that that's all she is, like, oh yeah, I do. That is the way that is all that I am. I'm not really a human being that needs to like take time and you know, mourn my loss of my loved one and give time to myself. Like, I'm a performer. I'm for other people. Like, maybe she's like, I have to be unselfish, and maybe this is, I'm only here for other people. I'm not here for myself. Like, and if I'm not entertaining, this is kind of what Vincelli would be like telling her. Like, he tells her the lie, essentially. That's how we can kind of map it out really easily. Is like, he literally tells her the lie, and it's already something that she believed, but she was kind of going away from. That's what makes it the inciting incident, is that she was about to, you know, turn away from the lie and be like, give time to herself and have reflection. But then Vincelli is there to kind of keep her on track, to keep the lie alive, and be like, you're only as good as your public persona, and as how successful you are, and everything you've done is tied to your success as a musician or artist.
And another thing that comes to mind is, you said that another maybe way to look at what her lie is, and this could take some more thinking about, like, is that the lie is that she believes she's a superhero. On some level, she believes she's like not human, kind of like a little homage to the James Franco, like Francis Bacon, like, you know, God on earth kind of person. She believes she's a superhero. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of ways, she kind of is.
Yeah.
But like you said, when it comes to the moment where we meet her, it's at that moment where the whole thing starts to break down, and she's like, I'm going to be proactive. I'm not a superhero. Maybe I'm not a superhero.
Yeah.
I'm on this ledge. I could just jump off right now. It's like, am I going to fly? No. It's like the moment where she's finally starting to kind of think, maybe I'm not a superhero. Maybe I need some time to like go be a human. And Vincelli's like, no, you're definitely a superhero.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're invincible. And then that builds and builds and builds to the point where she literally is the superhero. And then the truth, which, you know, I guess it's not on this particular list, but makes sense with the lie. The truth, and makes a lot of sense, is that she's not a superhero. She's a human being.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and that's the thing that she has to learn through all of her, like, overcoming the lie, overcoming the wound, overcoming the need, overcoming everything to learn the truth at the end, which is the ultimate moment, right? Is where she can, like, giving in is not like what we've been saying. She always gives in, and like to give herself to the fate. I like that she thinks she doesn't need to act like normal people. Like a normal person would be going through this trauma, and they'd need to do this and that to recoup themselves. But she's like, I've never been, you know, like talking to herself after Vince Telly just is kind of her inner dialogue at that point, just kind of takes over, manipulating like, oh yeah, I am like I am a great talent. I am not like other people. I'm not like other people. I've never been like other people. My parents have never been like other people. I've never surrounded myself with normal people. I'm friends with the president. Like all of these things, you could be like, I am not. Nothing about my life is normal. So you're right. This is my life. This persona, this success is this superhero Lilith. Maybe that's not even. Maybe he can even come up with. Maybe she has a different name. We don't have to go crazy and stuff like that.
Right.
Maybe her normal name could be I don't know, some different version of it. And he's like, how about Lilith? That's your new kind of.
Ooh, I like that. Ooh, that's an interesting concept. That's actually really cool.
To kind of just actually change her.
Yeah.
Okay.
And hey, Mom.
That's Dad.
Oh, hey, Dad.
Alex says hi.
Yeah, and I really like that because I can see in that initial pitch meeting with Vincelli, Matt Damon and Lilith, or whatever her real name is at this point. It's like, and she's maybe like teeter-tottering on the whole thing, and then he's like, let me tell you a story about an old character. It's a true story about this woman named Lilith. And Lilith, tells the story of Lilith.
Yeah.
And like how she was vastly misunderstood by history.
Right.
And how much good she did for the world, and how she had to put her, like Lilith had to sacrifice her own feelings for a greater good kind of thing. Like literally like pitches the story of Lilith, like, and puts that idea. And it's like, next thing you know, it's like Lilith and Liquid Crystal. It's like, I could see that. And then also this whole thing of like that lie, that like great point, like consolidating and prioritizing, like understanding what these things are. But like when she's in the thick of it with Liquid Crystal and Jeff is trying to explain to her shit and about the 5G and all this shit. And like, and she's like, Jeff, like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's like when he's like, I saw your boyfriend in there doing some weird monkey shit. It's like, dude, like I could see that, like that lie of like her being invincible and having this sort of, this persona and being her persona, that it makes sense. That it's like, well, even if that stuff were true, it doesn't matter because I'm Lilith.
Yeah. Yeah. She could literally be taking on a different persona, and then you could see him. Yeah. It would be really a lot easier for us to like, these two are best friends and they're best friends for their whole life. And all of a sudden now she's just kind of shrugging him off. And it's kind of, that is a little bit like out of left field ish. But if she does take on this different persona, and she like carries herself differently, it'd be a lot easier and more believable for the audience to be like, oh yeah, maybe the old person would have listened to Jeff and been like, oh, of course, I believe you 100%. But now she's in this new mode, this new superhero mode of like, okay, Jeff, like you said, even if that is true, like don't worry about it. Like this is not normal. This is not like.
She could even say something like, I've got this don't worry, everything's under control. I don't know if she says that in there, but like, it'd be funny if she actually said that well before the final moment.
Yeah, I like that. Because then she's totally on board with it. She's like, she is the Liquid Crystal. She really, she takes on that role 100%. So we don't have to go. Because before it was so wishy-washy, she'd be the human, she'd be Jeff's best friend, and then all of a sudden she'd be like, "Oh, shut up, Jeff!" Like I can't, like she'd just go back and forth. There's a lot of inconsistency in her behavior, and I think that's what the person who gave us the notes was saying. Like, we don't know who she is. Yeah. Like, what does she want? Because she does this, but then she does that. So it doesn't really, her actions don't really line up, and they're not consistent. So I think this would make her more consistent to know that she was this way. She clicks into this mode, and then she is that mode, and then clicks out of that mode once Jeff dies, and kind of, it's like the Manchurian Candidate. She like realizes that she's being manipulated, and then all of a sudden slips back to her other persona, her actual persona. But then at that point, she's like, I don't even know who I am, blah, blah, blah. And that's when she can go on her crazy drug thing.
So let's move into that. Like when she does realize, she gets like activated and fucking all of a sudden, or deactivated or
deactivated, yeah.
And she like goes back to that state of mind that she was in very briefly in the beginning of the movie.
On the rooftop, essentially.
The what's that?
like on the rooftop in the beginning.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Switch right back to that.
Yeah. And so we didn't really have a chance to go into that right away, obviously in the beginning because Vincelli shows up. But I think we'll have a better understanding of who she like is in that moment if we identify now like what the want and the need are. What was what were you saying? The want is external?
The want is external and the need is internal. So the want is like something like, I'm going to do this. You know, it's like very clear in every movie. It's like, that's what you establish. And then the need is something that they learn. Eventually. It's like, oh no, it's not really about this. It was about this all along, you know, like because of the lie, like all of these things that they told themselves are these beliefs, you know, these belief systems that they had. You know, oh, if I only get this, then I can get that. You know, if I only reach this, then that's all I need. And then in the long run, you know, it's like, oh, the moral of the story is teamwork is better than trying to do everything by yourself.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very generic one. It's like, I can do it all by myself. You know, I'm super strong. I'm going to get the trophy. And then along the way, you reject, like Frodo rejects Sam at some point. He's like, Sam, go. I'm doing this by myself. Like he tells Sam to go off, or basically tells Sam to fuck off. And he's like, I'm going to do this by myself. But in the end,
yeah,
Sam carries him. He's like, I'll carry you. You know, like that moment where like
load.
He realized he needed Sam the whole time. You know, that's the need. You know, he wants to get this ring and destroy it, but he needs to work with other people. He needs to learn that. He needs to overcome things. So Lilith, I don't really know what her need would be at that point,
or even her want, really, like,
or even her want. Yeah, I think that was the main note. What does this main character want? What does she want?
What does she?
I don't really know. Well, you know, there's a lot of things that we could say. Oh, she wants world peace, and she wants to change. She wants to exploit all of this conspiracy at some point. That was what her want was. I got to get this information now, and I got to warn the president. I got to, you know, there's all these little wants, you know, and in different moments. And she wants to bang Chris, and she wants to do this, and she wants Jeff, and then she wants to avenge Jeff.
Yeah.
But it's always changing. There is no really initial, like at some point, like apparently Luke Skywalker is one of the best examples of the hero's journey in modern times.
Yeah.
Because they must have had a checkpoint like we do, like anybody does now. Like, okay, he needs to do this, and he needs to do this, like 20 things, and he hits all of them. So he clearly states at one point, he's like, I want to be a Jedi just like my dad.
Yeah.
That's, you know, he clearly states that at some point. So as the audience, you're like, oh, okay, he wants to be a Jedi. Yeah. Lilith was like, okay, she wants to be the biggest rock star on Earth. Like that could be.
I think, you know what I think, what she wants to do, and this is all going to tie in and make this story particularly unique, the way that we disclose and learn about these topics here. But I think what she wants and what she's really always wanted was to change the world, was just like straight up, like sort of similar to like Neo in a way, where he wanted
Neo. Yeah. To Neo for sure.
Similar to Neo, but like just to go on sidebar with the Matrix and that scene, which I actually rewatched recently. I rewatched all three of those movies, and I mean the first one obviously is incredible. I mean one of the best movies ever, and like the second and third are just more interesting for their philosophical ideas they bring forward. But just to focus on that one scene with the architect, when in Matrix Reloaded, when he's standing there and architect is basically just telling him like, yeah, I've seen this happen 5 previous times. This is the 6th time this happened. And then Neo says something like, well, yeah, well, what? Like, and then the architect goes, that was faster than all the rest. And there's a little funny thing with that too. It's like 5 previous times you have come before me, and this is the 6th time, but 6th time is different. Just like what Uncle Bruce talks about. There have been 5 previous mass extinctions, but this is the 6th mass extinction, and things are happening different now. Uh-huh. So anyway, the architect, I think it was in that scene, identified what was different about Neo's want in that compared to the 5 previous Neos we never really got to see, which is every single Neo that came before him had that goal of wanting to like reboot the Matrix and save humanity. Yeah. And of course, that's inherent within what Neo's doing, but that's not really what Neo wants in a way. I think what Neo really wanted was to be with Trinity.
Yeah.
He wanted to be with Trinity. It was Morpheus who really wanted to do the world, and he was going along with that. Not to say that like essentially Neo wanted to save the world, of course. Like he wouldn't have done any of that if it was just for Trinity. And that's what the architect identified. He was like, yeah, you have more of a focused wanting to help Trinity, and by doing that you're able to connect and identify with this great thing called the Matrix and the community and the collective, because it's hard to like take that messianic role that Neo does when you don't have any personal connection to like a human being, let alone like humankind. I want to save humankind, but I don't know shit about humans. It's like, well, how connected is that? So I think Lilith, or whoever she really is, one of the things she wants is to change the world, like what we're saying, like what Neo wanted, and that definitely influenced all of the stuff with the fabric, her belief system about being like sort of this superhero, kind of like, I will come and show you, and like, follow me, I'll teach you. Like, I mean, she does it in a really cool way.
I feel like we've likened her to John Lennon before, and I feel like that would be the same kind of the easiest prototype because of the influence that he had, obviously, because that was a real example. Like he did change the world, or he really wanted to, you know, at some point eventually. That wasn't probably his intention in the 50s with the Beatles, but he was a massive influential artist who was genuinely trying to change the world. So I think that would be a perfect like real world example of it doesn't seem that outrageous of a goal when you put it in that way. Like she's not trying to become president, she's not trying to change policies, but she's trying to change the world the only way.
Make it a better place. Inspire people. Have that, you know, similar thing of, it's like, again, it's really tied into that messianic complex. And I can imagine like before the events of Mandala go down, even in the beginning of the movie, I can imagine just like Jeff and Lilith hanging out, getting in these modes, and Jeff happened to be like the check on Lilith a lot of times, where it's like you see yourself as some sort of like savior figure.
Oh, like he checks her?
Yeah, I could see him like checking her. Maybe not even as much, like maybe it could just like signal to a time before, because they've been friends for forever, right?
Yeah.
But I imagine like before the events of Mandala and the movie actually, or the story takes place, I can see like Lilith getting into that headspace of like, I'm gonna save the world, and it's like Jeff's like, dude, like this is great, but like, you know, making fun of her in that kind of way, like not fun at her, like come on, like you're making art, but like let's be honest here, and like before all that, like Lilith would probably be like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right, and kind of bring her back to being a human a little bit more. But then like after she's in Liquid Crystal, it's like there is no more of that. So she really starts to believe that, and Vincelli's like, yeah, you are changing the world. You're doing it. You're doing it, Lilith. And it's like, and I
could see a mirrored moment where her and Jeff have like that moment back in the day, and he calls her on it, and she's like, haha, yeah, you're right. And then afterwards she could say something like that again, and he'll be like, haha, and he'll like chuckle, and she'll be like stone-faced.
Yeah, it's like this, no. You don't think this is not funny?
Yeah, right. He's like, no, but, and so his mind, he's like, wait a minute, because they always say like have a clear before and after, you know, put them in the exact same circumstances. Like when, I think one of those moments is like when Neo is in the car and he's like, I used to drink coffee there, or something like that, you know, like he sees the world completely different. You know, he's like, he used to drink coffee there, now he's in this car, like he's in the same place but in a completely different world. And so if we have Jeff being like saying the same thing he would have said and expecting a reaction from her, and then her being complete, like he's the reference point and she is so different that she's taking it so seriously and believes it wholeheartedly that she has changed as a person.
Yeah. And so to take that the want further down the line in the story, where after Jeff dies and, you know, kind of like she unplugs from the lie for a minute. Mm-hmm. I mean, essentially for the rest of the movie. Yeah. But obviously things come up, but that was a big punctuation where it's like, oh my God, like I'm living in this bullshit world. Like goes back to the first, you know, we'll get into the needs in a minute, but like the wants, it's like her original want. She wants to change the world, and she starts to reevaluate everything. It's like she thought part of the lie that this show was going to be the thing that changed the world, but then she starts to see the show's kind of fucked up, and it's like, now it's my responsibility. Now I have like a motivation to change the world and the means to change the world in a way I never did before. And that's what sends her on that fucking like, you know, like Detective Lilith sequence. So like I could see that. It's like she wants to change the world, but then of course it comes to a point where, you know, she's so locked into that system. It's like she really, in a way, is powerless. It's come back to the line of where it's like she realizes at some point, she's like, man, I'm kind of powerless to change the world. Like that scene where fucking, was it Barnhart shoots Chris and like fucking, it's like, you've been getting everyone killed, just puts her in that fucking mode. And it's like, I am totally like, okay, the thing I want, maybe not going to happen.
Yeah, right. And she's in such of a deep hole, or at least believes that she is so powerless at that point.
Yeah.
Being, you know, it's ironic because they convince her that she is like all powerful, like Vincelli does. And then in that moment, Barnhart shows her that she is completely powerless. So it's like this false, this fake, this plastic illusion that they've built up that gets her to behave a certain way, but then ultimately she realizes that she has no power. So then she's like, and then maybe the want is just to get back to like the normal human basics, I guess. Like,
you mean the need?
Yeah, for the need, like just to be back to a normal, just what it's like to be a normal human being, not a superhero, not a fake superhero, not just not any of the fake stuff, just like a real. Like she wants to be a real, because she's lost so much at that point. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing.
Maybe it's like I don't know how this applies, but just the thought of like the want is external. She wants to save the world external from herself. In the beginning of the movie, she has that moment where it's like, okay, I realize, you know, the lie I've been telling myself about my relationship with Melissa and my career and all that stuff. So I'm going to be proactive, and I'm just going to stop doing all that stuff. I'm just going to be. It's like I get the image of someone who's meditating, someone who's meditating truly, I don't think is like in the back of their mind, like I'm meditating to change the world. That defeats the purpose, because that's a thought that's running through your mind. You don't want to have that. You want to be completely open, quiet, and receptive to everything, as opposed to putting something out there. So I think like maybe even the need at that point, it's like she tied more into the being free thing, but to be more specific, I imagine, would be I mean, it's, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're getting at something, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. But it's just like I see her, she wants to change the world, but part of the need, it's like she doesn't have to change the world. She doesn't have to do anything necessarily to change the world. Like, for example, at the very end of the movie. What's that?
Just like cliche shit. Like if you want to change the world first, you have to change yourself.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, cliche, but it's a very important thing, you know? Yeah. And it's like, even at that point where it's like her wants and her needs come to a point right at the very end of the movie where she's on stage and she could literally just be like, everybody run, they're trying to kill us all. Like she could say something to fucking change the world, right? But it's like she comes into that fucking freedom. Just, it's like the wants and the needs start to recalibrate to a point where, she realizes she doesn't have to. It's not about trying to change the world. It's just about being yourself and being, being yourself. Change yourself. Change your perspective. It's like the difference about changing the world. It takes some sort of effort to do something, whereas I feel like what her need is, it's kind of the opposite. It's like, no, don't just stop. Just stop and be. And that last performance in Liquid Crystal, it's kind of like some crazy meditation thing. And that's where all of this shit comes together, because she really does become that superhero. She really always has been the whole time. Mm-hmm. It had nothing to do with her trying to change the world. It had everything to do with changing herself and getting back into herself, realizing that she already was fine the way she was. And it's like one of those things in Into the Wild with Emil Hirsch, and it's like the whole time he's trying to be himself and get away from people, but then on the moment right before he dies, he has this big epiphany and he's like, oh, happiness only exists when it's shared. And then it's just like a flashback to all the opportunities he could have had. And it's not like it's bittersweet, of course, but it's not depressing, because it's like he gets it. Like he got it. he got it. He could look back and be like, okay, I see where I missed all those things. And it's like, and it doesn't mean like, oh man, I screwed up. I mean, of course, yeah, in a way, but it's at the same time, it's like, oh, I already had all the connections I need. I just wasn't seeing it.
Yeah. 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 And same with Lilith is, yeah, it's essentially, it's going from doing to being. Like which is what she was going to do. Like the whole movie almost doesn't happen because she's standing there on the rooftop when we meet her, and she's thinking about going from her whole life. She's been doing music, doing art, doing drugs, doing parties, doing this, doing that. And then she was finally like, I just really want to be for a little bit, like maybe that was what the president like told her, like maybe you just need to be yourself and just chill out, be whatever your name is, and give time to yourself and just be yourself instead of constantly trying to do stuff and change the world. I'm gonna keep doing this lever, I'm gonna pull that lever, I'm gonna do this talk show, I'm gonna make this song, I'm gonna do this podcast, because I'm gonna keep doing and keep trying to change the world, and while leaving her actual self behind. It's one of those things where you've heard that story before, that people just kind of get lost in their public persona and blah 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 blah, and then years later they're like, I just got the momentum kind of absorbs you, and especially when you're young and successful, and then you're just kind of on this train of doing, and then the next day is a press junket, and the next day is an interview, and the next day is Ellen, and the next day is this, and there's just never any time to to be. So maybe that's she wants to do but needs to be. And maybe that's what it could be on a very, very molecular level, but she wants to change the world. And if you try so hard at something, like, I don't know if you ever, you break it. I don't know, if you overdo something, you can kind of overdo a muscle. Like when you work out too hard, you can kind of, tear the tendons. Like you need to kind of meditate, like your body, even your muscles need time to relax. You can't just be working all the time, because then your body breaks down. And that's kind of what her mind is. There hasn't had an opportunity for her mind to slow down and just be. So she just probably makes her more susceptible to manipulation too. Her mind is just so worked that it's really easy for Vincelli just to kind of slide in there and just move it to the left or to the right. Whereas if she actually sat and had time, so that's why they probably don't like her to have time alone, which is why they put Chris on her, and they make sure that she's constantly watched and constantly has something to do, because they don't want to give her even a second to kind of think about it. Because even if she did have like a whole day to think about it, they'd be like, oh, maybe she'll snap out of it or something like that. So maybe at the end she realizes, like once they kill Chris, after they kill everybody, that she just kind of has to give up, and then instead of trying to do all this and trying to do stuff, then she's just like, she just needs to be. And I think we've made that likeness of her standing on the edge of the stage before the last show and her standing on the edge of the building is kind of like mirrored moments. And so the movie kind of just takes off from there, where she was about to just be at the beginning of the movie, but then Vincelli wraps her in, and then at the end, after going through all this other shit, she's at the same exact place, but just so worn down that she can't even do anymore. All she could do is be, and all she could do is be, the musician, like the pure artist. So maybe we can even like coach her she moves differently. Maybe she still hits all the cues and stuff like that, but you could just see her moving more fluidly and less like robotic, and I'm going to do this move and hit this note perfectly. It's just more fluid, because yes, she's worn down completely, but she's also she's clicked out of it, and she's finally just like being herself and showing other people that they need to be themselves, because everyone obviously is obsessed with Lilith, and they're acting like her and they're dressing like her. Maybe she has a wig on, she takes her wig off, or she takes her her fake eyelashes off, or just like some symbolic shit like that, where she's just stripping down to her pure self and just being.
Well, another thing to maybe lock it, because of course, in a way, this is similar to the idea. I mean, we're getting closer, but the idea of like Lilith just wants and needs to be free. Even the doing and the being, Lilith wants to do but needs to be. to go more specifically than that, of course, she wants to change the world. She wants to do something to change the world, positive way. But the being part, I just thought of the word acceptance. I looked up here. It's like the word of the true meaning of acceptance means to be in the embrace of what is without resistance. Acceptance means to be in the embrace of what is without resistance. True acceptance is one of the most powerful and life-changing practices you can choose for your life journey.
There you go.
And it's like to take it more formally with the being, what does Lilith need? Lilith needs to be in acceptance of herself and her environment. And I think like at the very beginning of the movie, you know, that need, she needs to accept what's going on, but she's struggling with it. And she wants to change the world, but she's struggling with it.
Wow.
She's realizing the lie of everything that brought her there, and that's that moment. It's like when those things all kind of come into an alignment like that, where you don't have really the answers to all of them. That's when you have like a little opportunity there. So that was an opportunity for her because she realizes like she doesn't really accept herself. She doesn't really accept the situation. Mm-hmm. But in a way, she kind of does. She realizes she needs to accept it, which is why she wants to like take a hiatus.
Right.
She realizes that she can't change the world right now. What she wants, she can't really do because she's not in the state of mind to do it. Mm-hmm. And she realizes the lie. So like imagine like that definition actually makes a lot of sense, just even for the grand story of her and what happens at the end. Like acceptance means to be in the embrace of what is without resistance. That is exactly what happens to her at the end. And that is the thing that fucks up Barnhart's entire esoteric, black magic fucking bullshit. Because the whole point is that they like, if it were to work in the mythology, in the mythos of Barnhart magic, you need your victim to be a victim. You need to feel like a victim.
Yeah.
They need to be like, I don't get it. I don't accept this. Good.
Yeah.
Then that's kind of what that scene was. That like he kills Chris. It's like,
yeah. She could even say that at some point. I don't accept what's going on.
I don't accept this. And he'll be like, good.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I want, bitch.
Yeah. He needs that. If we're going on black magic shit, that's the energy they need, when it happens. She needs to be in the victim energy. She needs to be in the non-accepting and rejecting of what's going on, because that's like give me that blood energy of fear and stuff like that. But then when she actually, the moment comes, none of that's there.
No, and once she finally accepts and understands what she really needs, it neutralizes the whole lie altogether. The lie that she's like believes herself to be like a superhero or like a superhuman in some way. It's like if you were to tell Superman like, no, you just need maybe not Superman, maybe someone a little darker than Superman. Like there's that show The Boys. Have you seen that on Amazon?
Yeah.
Oh God, I love that show. But like that Captain America, whatever the fuck that guy is, it's like try telling that guy to just accept the world as it is.
Right.
It's like I am the Superman. I will make the world accept what I wanted to accept. It's like, so once she realizes that, like that acceptance, that meditative, like understanding herself, understanding her situation, recognizing what it is, she doesn't have to do anything. She already is. It's the most like Mandala moment of like, I am exactly where I need to be. And I understand why I'm here. And I don't have to do anything. I just have to be myself. I have to be myself. And that's what she does when she's like, freedom, freedom. And it totally just bypasses the whole thing, neutralizes the lie.
Yeah, and she accepts. And then I think we've talked about it, but like cutting to Barnhart during that, like watching her accept it and kind of him be, the audience doesn't really know why, but he could start looking like kind of crushed, like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, from the outside perspective, it looks like everything's going according to plan, and it was up until that moment. And then you can see him like watching her, it just kind of like washes away, or and then he's like, oh fuck, like
could do like a John Swanbeck experiment with Jack Nicholson and be like, all right, it's like standing on that stage on set and be like, all right, Jack, this is what I want you. I want you to forget about the motivations of the story. I want you to forget about the character. I want you to forget even that you're Barnhart for a minute. And for this moment on this take, I want you to imagine that I want you to see yourself as a child building a sandcastle. I want you to watch yourself. It's slow motion. I want you to, the whole time that this scene plays out, I want you to really visualize this young version of yourself building a nice sandcastle, putting it all together perfectly and taking the time. And you're watching yourself and you're happy because it's you and you're happy about it. But then somebody comes over and just kicks down your sandcastle right before your eyes. And I don't want you to move. I want you to remember you're watching yourself as a young person do this. So I want to see the change in your expression from seeing this nice thing that you've built to all of a sudden it's over. And guess what? Remember, it's just a sandcastle. You know, it's in the past. You can't change it. So it's not the end of the world really, but it's definitely a little disappointing, I imagine, to watch.
Yeah, you put some work into that.
Yeah.
Put a lot of work into that sandcastle.
So just watching Barnhart being like I can imagine just like really subtle. Yeah. Like you were saying if you're watching as an uninitiated, not knowing what the movie is going to be, it's like, oh yeah, he's happy. All this shit's going down. But then again, it's like, oh, it's over.
Wait, was that an actual direction that?
No, I just made that up.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. No, I imagine like John Swanbeck, that teacher, because he would always in directing class, like encourage directors to do that with their actors. Like when you watch that movie, The Big Kahuna, and like there's scene, yeah, it's so good. It's like there's a great, I mean, throughout that movie, I'm sure, but knowing how John Swanbeck directs, and there's that scene where they're all in the elevator together. You got, was it like Danny DeVito, Kevin Spacey, right? Was it Kevin Spacey?
I don't remember.
Anyway, but it's just a scene where you're kind of like panning at the different facial expressions on these guys. And it's like, it was a great moment for the movie, but knowing John Swanbeck, we had to ask, like, what did he tell those guys? What is going through their heads right now? Because it has nothing to do with what we're actually seeing.
Right.
But it was perfect. It was the perfect thing to say.
Yeah, and it's a great direction to give whoever ends up playing Barnhart, if it is Jack too, because that's essentially what it is. And there's a lot of subtleties that would be going on with that. Like if anybody imagine that scenario of watching.
And it's symbolic for a mandala in itselop. Like,
right.
I forgot where you posted it. It's like the sandcastle. You know, you build this nice thing with sand, and then it just gets wiped up in the end. It's like, oh, I took me 4 days to make that. And
yeah, right.
Just dust in the wind, dude. It's like
dust, wind, dude.
Oh, cumpleaños.
Oh yeah, great. That's great. That makes it a lot more clear as to who Lilith kind of is. It makes her more human and less human at the same time. So then obviously
oh no, go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna move on to the wound, but you were.
That's exactly what I was gonna do.
Oh, so the same wavelength. So the wound, I think, obviously has to do with
Melissa
and the death of that, right?
Yeah. Well, then also her parents, right? Because they're not in the picture. And I forget.
Right.
I don't. Her dad. I don't know. I don't know if we're still saying that he died the same way that he did way back when. I don't even remember what happened. I know it's her mom. Her mom died when she was young.
Yeah. Well, it's like it could apply to all that by just saying her wound is that she feels alone.
Yeah.
She sees herself as being completely alone. And time and time again with her parents and with Melissa especially, those really locked in that wound. It's like, I am alone. I have no one.
Yeah.
One person that she was true. I mean, like the whole time Jeff was there, and that's a big part of the thing that like motivates that love interest. It's like that scene where they're together and it's like, I've been here the whole time and I've loved you the whole time. And then she realized like, oh my God, you're right. I actually fucking love you too. Like she's been in the midst of everything. Of course, all the wants and the needs and the lie and the bullshit. But yeah, it's like I don't know. I feel like that's her biggest wound is that she sees herself as alone.
Yeah, and then they just keep reopening the wound. Essentially, they know that's her wound,
Mm.
and then they keep picking the scab. They did it, 2 more times with Jeff. And then they thought, maybe that would trigger her back into the mode that they want her to be in, but it kind of had the adverse effect. So then they had to do that with Chris. Yeah. The same thing, like reopen the wound again, and then at that point she was just kind of lost its effect. But yeah, clearly, yeah, her wound is, I like that, is alone, because even though Jeff's been around the whole time forever, she's always been like the front person in the band. So it's always, more or less been about her. She's always been the special one. We can highlight that a lot, like through other dialogue with Jeff and with Vincelli. It's like, the fabric's been great, but it's always been you. You've always been. You could even be like, how many times have you been approached, to do solo music? I know you have been. And she'll be like, yeah, a few times, but I've always rejected it because she didn't, maybe she didn't want to be. She didn't want to be alone. Didn't want to be alone. Yeah, she kind of needs the camaraderie. And then with Liquid Crystal, he could be like, you'll never be alone. Like you were saying, kind of have all these wonderful people, and then, the dance choreographer, and I'll be here all the time. But then she
lies up the wazoo.
Yeah. And maybe we can make it more of a thing that she really, really has to work to get Jeff to come on the show, because they probably don't want him there, really. Like Vincelli.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because we kind of just skim over that.
Yeah.
And if I was Vincelli, I would really not want Jeff there.
Yeah, I'd be like, no.
So
maybe the 5G conspiracy guy and the satellites, no, he cannot be part of this.
Yeah.
For no reason, of course.
And your best friend, somebody who will give you the truth and be honest with you, like, we don't want that.
That is such a good point, dude.
We can make that more of a thing, and that's where we could, she could be going along with it. But then, her one stipulation is, okay, but Jeff has to come with me, and then Vincelli will kind of like, no, sorry, we don't really have space, and then kind of escalate to, no, he can't come, and then kind of like a standoff. Well, if he cannot come, I cannot do it. Like they'll kind of both reveal themselves in a very escalating way, like, haha, very nice and cool. Well, I'd really like him to come. Okay, well, he can't come. Ooh, well, I'd really appreciate if he was there. Well, he can't fit in. Well, if he's not going to come, then I can't do it. Then he's like, oh, okay. And then he kind of.
And maybe what he has to do, because we took out Barnhart in that scene, he's not there anymore. That what if it came down? It's like, and it seemed, and like you just said, it's like they're kind of both revealed at that moment. Matt Damon seems like, like a hot shot, and like he's in charge of everything. But then it's like comes down to that standoff, and he'll be like, she'll like tells him like, well, it's like it won't happen unless Jeff's there. And then he eventually caves and is like, all right, I got to make a phone call.
Yeah.
And he just like goes in the corner and just fucking calls Barnhart. Basically, we don't even have to hear Barnhart. We just see like Matt Damon kind of subtly shift into like, like, hey, I'm Matt Damon, to like, sir.
Yeah.
We have, sir, is it okay if,
yeah, we have a little bit of a slip up. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like, and it's just a little, like a much more appropriate form of foreshadowing than like having like the tech scientist guy standing there and the lurking in the back. Like, who the fuck are those guys and why are they here? It's more just like Matt Damon is just like, yes, sir. He like breaks character, and he gets like very serious with Barnhart. And then like Lilith is just standing there watching it maybe. And then he like gets off the phone, turns around. All right, everything's good. Sure. And it's just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, and that alone should kind of trigger some things in the audience's mind, like, okay, there is something a little bit off about this, at least initially. Yeah. Not so much that you're like before, the original version where it'd be like, whoa, what the hell's going on? Like right off the bat, you're suspicious.
Yeah.
I like
and that thinking too much about the details of like scientists and creepy, guy standing there. We don't know who he is. You could play it off as just like a typical business negotiation.
Yeah.
That like Lilith stood her ground for and succeeded.
And but for some reason that we're unsure of yet is that we know that she really wants him and that they didn't want him. Like it wasn't like an afterthought. It was like they knew that they didn't want him to come. That they didn't want anybody. Maybe they won't make it specific. They're like, oh, I understand that you would have won. We talked about you bringing some people on from your band. They don't have to specifically say Jeff, but like, we just feel like it's better that we have we already have our core going on. We have a really special thing. It's very specific. And we just think it'd be better if it was just you and we kind of put you into this thing instead of bringing stuff with you to kind of paint it that way. Instead of making it seem like, no, Jeff can't come, because that'd be a little bit, alarm bells will be a little bit too loud with that one.
No, I imagine the way it'll play out is like literally just a business negotiation.
Yeah.
And also just like in the sense of foreshadowing too, it's like right off the bat, we kind of plant a seed that, Jeff is expendable.
Yeah, right.
Which is like, that's like what Barnhart, if I were to put myself in his shoes, when Vincelli asks him, like, Vincelli's probably like, we can't, like calling no, like reluctantly knowing like Barnhart would say no, but then Barnhart's like, no, it's fine. You can go. I got a plan. I got a plan for Jeff already. I did the calculation.
Yeah, right.
Like,
exactly.
Totally come. Like, we're going to kill him later. It's fine. And it'll work to our advantage.
Right. Yeah, we can use. We'll be able to use him later or something like. That's what he would say. It's like, well, he'll come in handy later or something like that.
Yeah,
we'll find a purpose for him. We can put him in there.
And it's kind of also like, in a way, minus this new addition here, when Jeff dies, it's like, it's making me think like how much of a kind of a hole that was a little bit. Like, why would they let Jeff in there in the first place? And now. Before it was like Jeff was, like they're letting him go. But once he starts to investigate, that's when red flag goes up.
Right.
But it's like right off the bat, that red flag goes up.
Yeah. And I was just watching, I was watching I Am Legend, kind of like had it on in the background here, just kind of threw it on.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think I saw it in the theater. And I remember immediately, I don't know if, I didn't remember the preview, but I remember immediately when I saw Will Smith with his dog, my first thought was, they're going to use that against the audience. Fuck, they're going to use that dog against us. I know they are. That dog is not going to make it. They're going to pull the heartstrings. Some fucked up shit's going to happen with the dog. It's almost kind of what Jeff is. He's like a puppy that they're bringing along, like the comfort, and he talks to his dog, and I Am Legend like he's a human being. Like it's the same. It's not really any difference. It's the other being that's with them. Jeff is essentially the puppy that they're bringing along with you that we're going to use against you. We're going to make him a puppy. He's going to be so lovable. He's going to be your best friend. He's going to be everybody's best friend. He's just looking out for you. He's just he's like the perfect best friend and a guy that's always there. And of course he has a crush on you and he's loved you for your whole life, but he's never made it awkward. Like he's like
kind of like a puppy.
He is a puppy.
He is a puppy. Yeah.
And we're going to use that against you in the movie. So that's Barnhart could see it as that, like, oh, well, that's fine. I'd rather he not be there, because he's slightly unpredictable. We haven't really been able to. He is not manipulatable because he's too much of his own person. He's too self-aware or whatever it is. He breaks the mode, the mold or whatever it is. But yeah, of course, Barnhart thought of, okay, well, I foresaw this as a possible scenario. So sure, maybe he can even be in the beginning. Like you could just listen in the conversation. We'll have to come up with the conversation. Even if it's not in the movie, but like Vincelli being like, she's not budging on Jeff. And then and Barnhart could be not as harsh as Vincelli thought he was going to be. He was like, is there any wiggle room? And then you could even have like Vincelli be like, look back at Lilith and be like, no, it's a complete deal breaker. Like, so Barnhart's like, are you sure 100%? Like, because if that's the way, then we need her no matter what. But he's like, are you sure that you've tried to get him to not come? And he's like, yes, I've tried. And he's like, okay, that's fine. Bring him on. We got a thing for him. So that'd be another great, weird Steinbeck direction to give Matt Damon on that phone call, like thinking about something like that, like being scared and then being like open and then being a little bit surprised and then being like, oh, okay, this is fine. Of course.
And I can see them speaking in like very, like, cause he knows how to, it's like he he's the kind of person that'll communicate with different people in different ways. Yeah. So it's like, he's talking with Lilith, trying to get her on board, and he's using like very approachable, human type of language, and like, oh yeah, it's like I haven't drank in years, like that whole thing where he's got his like sobriety card or coin or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And but then when he goes onto the phone with Barnhart, he starts speaking in like, corporate, like weird pseudo corporate jargon, like, yes, the asset. Instead of calling like Lilith, he's like, yes, we have you. It's like, we have not attained the asset yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it speaks in a way that if you listen to it, like you'll get it, but it's not, it's just another indication of like, you know, breaking character, foreshadowing that there's something else going on, but also like, even if you were to listen to it, it's like, he's just trying to make a business deal, and you had to double check, like no harm, no foul. It's like, yeah, but when you go back and watch it again, you're like, oh shit, the asset.
Yeah, maybe she could even be like, who is that on the phone? He's like, oh, everyone's got a boss, you know, or everyone's got to run by somebody, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know. Business as usual, no big deal, nothing. No big deal. There's no man behind the curtain, you know, just.
And then Vincelli will double down to really like lock in the misdirection by being like, you know what, you're right. It'd be so great. It'll be so great to have Jeff. Like it just immediately switches around. Like once he talks to Barnhart,
like
he's like, actually, yeah, it's like, so tell, maybe even Lilith will immediately start off by saying like she'll try to be like defending Jeff again, because maybe like Lilith's standing there watching Matt Damon have this conversation, and she's starting to think like, you know, maybe I was being a little hard, you know, thinking to herself, being a little harsh. Once Matt Damon gets back off the phone, I'm just gonna be like, I'm sorry, I just wanted to tell you, like, I really like Jeff. I think he's gonna be great. And Matt Damon be like, it's all good. He's totally on board. I just had to check. And you know, the thing is I'll be honest with you, Lilith. Let me be honest with you. I really like Jeff. I think you guys would be great, but you know, like you said, like everyone reports to somebody. Everyone's got a boss, you know? It's like, oh, okay. All right. Matt Damon did want Jeff the whole time.
Yeah. Of course.
Fucker. Slippery bastard.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Wow. That's just those 4 things really.
Yeah. We know a lot more about her, and it'd be easier to, but the only, I think, not difficult part, but like we'll just be very conscious of knowing what mode she's in, you know, because she kind of goes through a lot. So okay, in pages 1 through 15 she is this person, but then in page 15 to 35 she's this person, and then so she really is very reactive a lot. And then I think once I think that's the moment, it is kind of near halfway, I think, but when Jeff dies, that's when she
it is totally halfway.
From reactive to proactive. That's when she starts her you know, making decisions for herself and kind of becoming more aware of what her need is, instead of oh, I'm not just here to change the world, there's a lot of other things going on here.
She becomes like aware of all those things halfway through the movie. Like it's like we can identify which state of mind she's in, like where she's working from, but it's like that halfway point. It's like when she realizes the lie, like the lies of Barnhart and the lies of Vincelli and all that stuff, the sort of the lies of Mandala project. It's like
alive to herself too. I think
the wound is reopened, obviously.
And the world becomes, I don't know, the goal or the trophy becomes less and less massive. It becomes a lot smaller. Like, you know, before it's like, I got to heal the world and make the world a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. But after like these things keep happening, it kind of everything's kind of closing in on her, and she's kind of having to refocus about her, you know, her immediate world instead of like changing the grand world. You know?
And Jeff is like her Trinity at that point, because he dies, but Trinity dies
or
as well.
Does he?
Or does he? But that's like the whole motivation for her wanting to change the world becomes much more focused on personal things. She wants to bring justice or resolution, like closure about Jeff, the one person that she realized, like she wasn't alone the whole time. It's like all the things that, you know, about her wound become very apparent to her at that point. Like we were saying before, she goes right back to that moment in the very beginning of the movie.
And that'll kind of, that'll bring it back. It's kind of like the perspective gets inflated and deflated. Like it's the fabric, it gets so inflated and then brought back when Melissa dies, and then she's finally focusing on herself, and then it comes, and then Mandala happens and liquid crystal, and everything gets inflated again, and then the vision is for the whole big thing. And then as things happening and Jeff Jeff dying brings it in so much closer. And then she finally realizes that she's not doing it. You know, she starts doing it for Jeff and this and that. But then at the end, when Jeff dies and then Chris dies, and then the bubble is so small, it's just on her. It's like, oh no, it wasn't about the world. It wasn't about Melissa. It wasn't about Jeff. It wasn't about the president. It wasn't about Chris. It was about me. So like everything kind of like all these balloons keep popping around her. And then all of a sudden it's just her left at the end. Like there's nothing else for her. Like everyone's gone. Everyone's gone.
Yeah.
And it took her all of that to realize that she needs to just be herself.
Yeah. And also another thing in that final scene with the performance of Liquid Crystal, I feel like, you know, John Swanbeck style. I don't know how this would be described, or if it needs to be described, it's just going to be inherent within the theme. But a big part of it's like, even with the hero's journey, a lot of these things, like especially with needs and wants, a lot of times we are forced into positions where we have to make a choice of which one is more important. And back to Neo and the choice being a bunch of bullshit. Mm-hmm. It's not a choice between wanting to change the world or wanting to be in a state of acceptance of yourself and your environment. It's not a choice between those, because in her case, it all kind of comes together in a singularity. She realizes that by being herself and by accepting her such situation and accepting who she is and the being, that's how she is going to change the world. It's not the other way around.
Right. Exactly.
And also deflating the whole fucking lie.
Right.
Which he doesn't really, again, it's like maybe the old Lilith before she was Lilith was all like, even after Jeff dies, I'm going to expose the lie. It's like, by the end of the movie, really, it's like you would think like, oh, well, this is a tragedy. Like the lie is bigger than ever now.
Yeah.
But there's the red card scene where it's like, no, you know, like she died in acceptance, fucked up Barnhart's plan. And by doing that, changed the world.
Yeah. So. There you go.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
I agree. Yeah, that went well. We've never really had that conversation about Francis Bacon or Lilith or whatever. She's always like, she's always been our Achilles heel, and that she's just there, you know, getting pushed around and doing. Yeah, just doing whatever the story needs her to do instead of her doing what she needs to do for the story.
Yeah, we were like Barnhart and Vincelli, just like orchestrating some crazy shit for her to react to, and then killing her at the end and being like, "Oh,"
and not taking into account how she would actually react to stuff.
Yeah,
assuming that she would react one way, but because we have so much control over her, she'll do whatever we want her to do. But no, she is her own human being.
Yeah.
She realizes that.
And that's another big revelation too about the lie of being like, you know, superhuman. It's not about, perfect James Franco reference with a line from that movie that talks exactly about this was in The Great and Powerful Oz with James Franco. And his whole thing, his lie was, I don't want to be a good man. I want to be a great man. And that's what he, you know, fucked him over the whole time throughout the movie, because he's Wizard of Oz, like making himself up to be greater than he really is. And then by the end of the movie, it's like, no, you didn't have to do any of that shit. Just use the skills you have and just be good. Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of times seeking greatness, you just you sacrifice a lot of the things that would make you good in the first place. And that's what like happened to him. It's like you start thinking like, oh man, it's like he lied to all these people about who he really is. He's you know, fooling himself. He's fooling everybody. He's trying in the search of greatness. But then once he realizes it's all about just being a good person. And that was the big change. It was like, no, it's like, I don't need to be a great man. I just need to be a good man. Mm-hmm. James Franco. Hilarious. I rewatched This Is the End recently.
Oh yeah.
Oh God. What a fucking hilarious movie.
Yeah. I watched Disaster Artist again recently too.
Hi, Mark. But yeah, dude, that's a really good point, man. We never really did that for him, Francis Bacon, and just having these identified really makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it makes it a lot clearer. I'm gonna go back and reread the actual notes that we got from the professional people that we went over like in that 6-hour long podcast we did like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But that, it was still very, very kind of messy, but now it's a lot more clear. And then if you could put this one up, and then I'll just like retake notes on whatever we said here. I didn't really want to do it as we were doing it because it would kind of wanted to just be in the flow of it, and I think we got to the root of a lot of it. And then that'll just make it a lot easier with knowing who our protagonist is and what she would actually do and who she be and not what she do, because she does a lot of stuff, but we don't really know who. We've been chiseling away for so long at who the main character is. We're very, very close to figuring out, who she is, and I think that the rest of the story will, because we already have all the great elements of the story and the great happenings and things. This was just a matter of kind of filling in all the human stuff and making it relatable and you caring about her, and we cared about her, but now I think we know why we care about her.
Yeah. And all of this stuff still fits perfectly with the whole thing, how she wants to be free.
Exactly.
Free of the lies, be a free being, to change the world, because a lot of times we feel helpless and powerless in that respect unless you're a fucking Lilith. There's that Lupe Fiasco song. It's like, was it about the actor? It's like, if you're in an actor, you'll never be a factor, something like that. It's like most people are not in that position to change the world. Right. So it's like a lot of times we don't feel free. It's like, I'm not free. It's like, I'm in a little prison here. It's like, we should do something, but like and then being in acceptance. That's like one of the biggest aspects of being free, is like accepting who you are, accepting, like in death, like there's that, the stages of whatever, like going from denial to ridicule or guilt all the way to acceptance. Mm-hmm. Like acceptance is the final thing that you need to accept really before you die. So it's like, it still makes sense. She wants to be free, but this is a bullet point breakdown. And it's a lot better than Batman in the Dark Knight movies, because they did exactly that, where Batman, like I think in the beginning of the Dark Knight is like, it's not who I am that defines me, it's what I do. Yeah. And then by the end movie, it's like, no. It's not what I do that defines me, it's who I am. Yeah. It's not, got buried in the shit with that one.
But yeah, it's true. Acceptance is really what it comes down to. I mean, and giving yourself, figuring out who she is, the age-old thing, finding yourself, but in a very roundabout way. She's just, we can't force it, which is what she's trying to do the whole time. He's trying to force it,
and so is Barnhart.
Yeah, right.
They're trying to force this whole fucking thing.
Control. It's out of control. No matter who thinks they have much control, remain calm. Everything is not under control. Yeah. Go crazy. It's out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Learn to accept that it's like the perfection. A lot of people think perfect doesn't exist in this world. Like there's that thing that I think Plato or Socrates or Aristotle or one of those guys was like, well, the idea of a chair is perfect, but the chair itself, not perfect at all. Mm-hmm. And in a way, that's true. If you look at it from like a bipolar, dualistic world, but if you just think like, look at our world as it is, it's like, in all of the imperfections, that's what makes it perfect. It's perfect. Right. It's like, and you have to accept the imperfections, accept the flaws. We have regrets, and that's okay. We should have regrets. We should have things we learned from in the past. But the question is, do we live in those regrets? Do we constantly burden and carry that baggage around when we don't really need to?
Right. It serves its purpose, but it can do more damage if you let it. Like you gotta accept things for what they are, and then be imperfect for sure. Not hide all the imperfections. Not put makeup on your scars or whatever it is. Like just
pretend that you're something you're not.
Right.
Which I'm sure Lilith, in that scene where she goes like AWOL and starts getting fucked up. It's like I'm not even. It's like, oh my God, that brings a whole new meaning to. Aren't you Lilith? I used to be. That like brings a whole new fucking level to that, dude. Oh, shit. I used to be. Oh, that is hilarious how that comes full circle in a way like that. Oh my God, dude. What the fuck? I used to be.
We didn't even force it. We just threw that in there as a joke, and now it'd be perfect.
It'd be perfect. We didn't have to do shit. Wow. Oh my God, I got chills up my wizard staff on that one.
Oh, that's perfect, man. That's great. All right, that's a great note to wrap it up on, I think. Plus, so, I gotta eat at some point. I've been trying to do the fasting, the 18 hours.
Oh, good.
18 hours off, 6 on. So
nice. How do you feel? Feeling different?
Yeah, I just feel. I've gotten past the point where I feel hungry a lot, so that's nice. Yeah, it's good. What's lots of new things happening in everyone's life. So, but this was great, man. This was very, very successful. As usually goes, it went better than I would have expected it to, but that's why I don't expect anything anymore.
Yeah.
Let it be.
Let it be.
But yeah, let me know when you upload this, and then I'll be able to write down what we actually transcribe what we said, and then because my dad keeps telling me, he's like, you better fucking hurry up with that stuff because it's getting more and more relative every day. I'm like, Dad, it's always been getting more relative for the last 12 years, like ha ha ha. But he's like, hurry the fuck up. I'm like, yeah,
you're right. Yeah. That's good. It's good to have that motivation.
Yeah.
And we got to stick true to our belief system here and the mythology we're creating about all this stuff, and not forcing it and allowing it. But it's a delicate dance, like we talked about. Like, we're experiencing life in slow motion, looking at the ones and the zeros, and but that's not an excuse to just sit there and read code, look at pretty women in red dresses in the code.
Exactly.
Which
it is an excuse, but we don't need to use the excuse. So
no. But yeah, man, great conversation, great progress on this. I love you, and I appreciate you, and send my love to your family and everybody.
Same. Hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. Love to the pups. Good talking, and yeah, obviously we'll be in contact. And
I'll let you know as soon as I upload this. Could be in the next couple of hours or by tomorrow morning.
Cool, man. And yeah, and then obviously if you have any other thoughts that spark in after this, it's like an after effect. What are they called? Aftershock.
Aftershock.
Aftershock. All right, man. Love you.
Love you too, brother.
Cheers. Good talking to you.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
On the flip side. Peace out.
Peace out.